Chapter 1. The Hands That Built My Son's Future. The first time I held my son, I was terrified. Not because he was fragile, not because I didn't know how to be a father. I was terrified because I suddenly understood that from that moment forward, someone else's future would depend on my choices. His tiny fingers wrapped around mine inside the hospital room. Outside, snow drifted softly across the parking lot. Inside, my wife Sarah smiled through tears as she watched me stare at our newborn son. "What are you thinking?" she asked. I looked down at him. "I'm thinking I can never fail him." Sarah laughed quietly. "You'll make mistakes." "Maybe." I gently touched the baby's cheek. "But I'll never stop trying." We named him James. For many years, that little boy became the center of our entire world. We were never wealthy, not even close. I worked at a steel manufacturing plant on the edge of town. The work was exhausting. The machines were loud enough to make your ears ring long after your shift ended. In summer, the heat felt unbearable. In winter, the cold cut through your bones. Every evening, I came home covered in sweat, dust, and exhaustion. Sarah worked part-time cleaning offices downtown. Together, we earned just enough to survive. Some months were easier than others. Most weren't. But whenever I walked through our front door and saw James running toward me, none of it seemed to matter. "Dad!" His voice could erase an entire day of hardship. I would lift him into the air while he laughed. Sarah would shake her head and smile. For a few moments, our small house felt like the happiest place on earth. James was different from other children. Even as a boy, he was curious about everything. He asked endless questions. Questions about airplanes. Questions about history. Questions about the stars. Questions I often couldn't answer. One night when he was 9 years old, we sat together in our backyard. The sky above us was filled with stars. "Dad? Yeah? Do you think people can become anything?" I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He pointed upward. "Like astronauts." I smiled. "Sure. What about presidents?" "Maybe." He thought for a moment. "What about someone who grows up poor?" The question caught me off guard. Children notice more than adults realize. I looked toward our little house. The peeling paint, the old truck in the driveway, the porch I kept promising to repair. Then I looked back at my son. Especially them. His face brightened. At that moment, I made a promise to myself. Whatever dreams my son carried inside him, I would do everything possible to help him reach them. The years passed quickly. Too quickly. One day he was riding a bicycle for the first time. The next he was taller than his mother. Then came high school, and with it came a reality neither Sarah nor I could ignore. James was brilliant. His grades were exceptional. Teachers praised him constantly. Scholarship letters began arriving. Universities started contacting him. For the first time, opportunities appeared that neither Sarah nor I had ever been given. But opportunities often come with a price, and that price was money. Money we didn't have. One evening after dinner, James sat quietly at the kitchen table. His acceptance letter from one of the best universities in the country rested in front of him. He should have looked excited. Instead, he looked worried. I already knew why. "Dad," I set down my coffee. "Yeah? I don't think I should go." Sarah immediately looked up. "What are you talking about?" James stared at the letter. "The tuition? We'll figure it out." "Dad," his voice broke slightly. "We can't afford it." Silence filled the room. The kind of silence parents understand immediately. The silence of a child trying to protect them. I looked at Sarah, then at James. Then I smiled. "Son," he raised his eyes, "your job is to study." I pointed toward myself. "My job is to worry." The next few years were some of the hardest of our lives. I took every overtime shift available. Weekends, holidays, night shifts, anything. Sometimes I worked 16 hours a day. Sarah started cleaning houses in addition to her regular work. We barely saw each other. But whenever exhaustion threatened to break us, we remembered why we were doing it. James, every sacrifice felt worth it. University changed him. At first only in good ways. He called every Sunday, sometimes twice. He told us about professors, friends, exams, dreams. Sarah would sit beside the phone, smiling throughout every conversation. After each call, she seemed younger somehow, happier. For a while, everything felt perfect. Then things slowly began to change. Not all at once, little by little. The way winter arrives, you don't notice it on the first cold morning. Only after enough days have passed, James called less often, his visits home became shorter, his world became larger, and ours became smaller. At first, I wasn't worried. That was normal. Children grow up. They build lives. Parents step aside. That's how life works. But deep down, something felt different. Something I couldn't explain. The first sign came during Thanksgiving. James arrived driving a luxury car. The kind of car that cost more than our house. He wore an expensive suit, a watch that probably cost more than my yearly salary. Sarah hugged him immediately. I did too. But throughout dinner, something felt off. He kept checking his phone, answering messages, talking about investments, networking, business opportunities, words that sounded important, but strangely empty. At one point, Sarah began telling a story from his childhood, a funny memory about a school play. James interrupted her. Mom, that was years ago. The smile disappeared from her face, only for a moment. But I noticed. Mothers always notice. So do fathers. That night after he left, Sarah sat quietly in the living room. He's changing. I stared at the television. Maybe. She shook her head. No. Her voice sounded sad. He is. I wanted to disagree, but I couldn't, because I felt it too. For the first time in my life, I wondered whether success was slowly taking my son somewhere I couldn't follow. And I had no idea that the worst day of my life was already approaching. A day that would arrive inside a beautiful wedding hall. A day when my own son would look directly at me and pretend he didn't know who I was.